organization. I've served the black community. I have served with the black community and within pride and integrity, and you'll never find a single complaint about me for any type of racism or discrimination. Black Lives Matter. I'm still waiting to see what they've done for the black community. This is Chicago. Come out here, show me what Black Lives Matter has ever done for this city, and maybe I'll start to look at them differently.
Yeah, they fight for civil rights so that police don't shoot unarmed black people.
You can't bring that up to me. I'm sorry. You're never going to have an argument that wins that or that. Now you're stepping into my wheelhouse, and you're not going to survive that argument. I'm sorry.
All right. Unfortunately, we're out of time because I could have that argument for half an hour.
I'd love to.
Stat after stat.
You can show stats for stats, but I could show you actual reality and the logic and the pragmat that was with that.
All right. Dominick, Izzo, thank you for joining us. But I want to ask you one more question, Dominick. Let's just go for a little bit on that. So same number of white people and black people smoke pot. Black people get arrested at about 4 times the rate. Are you saying that race has nothing to do with that?
Oh, no. You got to go back to see my logic and my research about why I wound up running for sheriff. 100%. I want to go a little bit long, and please edit this where you need it. But the Cook County Sheriff's Department out here in Chicago, it's the #1 jail in the nation, I believe. We houses between 9,000 to 10,000 people. If you look, now this will be my conspiracy theory, right? I can't prove this, but you take a culture and you keep that culture segregated in their own area, right? Public housing, we'll put them on whatever government aid they need. There's been talk all the way back from the Lyndon Johnson days about introducing welfare to separate the families from from the families. You have a broken school system. The Chicago public school system is abhorrent. I believe in 2016 they had a 67% black male graduation rate. So now you have uneducated black males who can't get jobs because if you've ever driven down any street that's south of 290 in Chicago, you're going to see neighborhoods that are destroyed. Everybody comes to Chicago. Where do they go? Michigan Avenue, State Street, the tourist areas. All you need to go is 5 minutes south with no traffic, and you're going to see a completely different Chicago. Now, you flood the areas with gangs and drugs, and the only thriving business is a liquor store. You now have laws that are created. This is where I agree with you on the law enforcement. See, cops are put into the academy to just to sit there and think that drugs are bad. I am vehemently against the war on drugs. Now you have all your probable cause to stop any black kid you want. You throw that black kid in prison. He stays in the jail for 2-3 weeks. If he had a job, he lost a job. Now you have to create more jobs in the county system. Because we could talk about what happened with Governor Pat Quinn and him losing his reelection, and then all of a sudden your county sheriff going from 3 directors to 300 good government jobs, and you create programs. You can't create a program like a drug addiction program and not have bodies in there. So what do you need? You need bodies in the jail to go through the court systems. Then court systems assign those kids to wind up going to those drug programs. People are employed. And if I was a manufacturer of toothpaste, soap, prison uniforms, bed sheets, you name it, what do I want the contract for a prison that holds 100 people? Or do I want the contract for Cook County Sheriff's Department out here in the Chicago area, where I know that those uniforms are going to get used because they're going to keep pumping bodies back in there? So the biggest problem that everybody looks at is they always think the street cop is the problem. No, you want to look at systemic racism, you need to go to your courts. You need to look at the deals that the defense attorneys make with the state's attorneys. You need to look at your sheriff's department. You need to look at your Cook County board president. The street cops, as bad as this is, and I saw a very big turn for this back in the late or the early 2000s, is your quality of candidate who's so quick to say yes, sir. And I was one of them in 2000 when you get your first marijuana arrest. And you've got an erection the size of Montana because you stopped somebody with weed. It's ridiculous. So what I will agree with you on is that the laws that are in place right now that cops are enforcing are put 100% on the books designed to keep black people in prison. It's for profit. So I believe that the whites will have a lesser sentences because of the attorneys they have. I believe that blacks wind up going through public defenders. I will tell you firsthand, public defenders are there to make deals. That's it. And the system keeps going and going and going. But the easiest person to throw under the bus will always be the first person they came in contact with, which is the police officer.
That was the most ironic thing I've ever heard. And I'm glad we had that conversation, because what you outlined there is a textbook case for systemic racism, and exactly what progressives say. So like when I talk about police brutality, I say, yeah, we should hold the police accountable 100%. Derek Chauvin needs to be put away for a long time and probably for life. Okay. Now, having said that, who gave them the orders? Who trained them? Who put them in that neighborhood in the first place? So, and who built this system? And so, what you're talking about is exactly what systemic racism is. And it's done by society, it's done by politicians, and it's done by the rules put into place, and that winds up having the effect of crushing Black men and women in this country. And so there's tremendous irony there. But Dominick, then don't you see that Black Lives Matter is saying that's what we're fighting against?
No, because Black Lives Matter is not. Black Lives Matter is going solely at they're not going at the problem. They're going at a sniffle. They're not going at the virus that's in the body. You don't see Black Lives Matter talking about judges. You don't see Black Lives Matter talking about the politician. It's never public. If there is an example, I will be more than happy to support Black Lives Matter if Black Lives Matter is going behind the scenes, taking on the politicians who are then pressuring lawmakers, who are creating this problem. Policing has gone to profit. If you want to solve the problem between the police and the public, go back to the Constitution. It's as simple as that. This is the easiest solution on the planet. You want to stop the cops from arresting kids for drug offenses? Take away the ability for them to enforce what they need. So stop with the victimless crimes. I know so many people are going to disagree with me, and they're going to throw the broken window theory that the kid who's got he needs the pot in his system is going to eventually break into somebody's home, which I just disagree with. But if you take away some of the victimless crimes and you put cops on that position to sit there and respond when needed, now all of a sudden there's going to be no problem. You're not going to get a Black kid running from police because they see a bulge in his pocket and then it's a cell phone. Some cop who was on the north side of Chicago, and this is another problem. You get some white kid who's always wanted to be a police officer, and he grows up thinking that it's the Wild West, because I'm going to tell you, now as a suburban cop, we got a lot of the problems that Chicago and Milwaukee chased out. Chicago does have an air of arrogance. I love Chicago PD, but I also got a big problem with them. That being said, you get those kids who wind up going to the academy. You get stories from veteran cops. What does social media do? Social media pumps out on a daily basis that the blacks are animals. All they show are the worst videos of the Black community, and just nonstop. So now you got some young 21-year-old kid who, again, 21-year-old kids should never be cops. The age should be raised to 30. You want a 21-year-old boy showing up to your house to solve a problem? Now he's in the academy on a daily basis thinking that it's going to be the Wild West for him. He's in Chicago. He's got these stories coming from veterans, and all he sees online is the Black community is out of control and they're violent. And where do they put him? On the South Side, because young, aggressive, yes, sir, I'll take those orders kids are the easiest to wind up doing what you want. That's the problem with law enforcement. Take away what their ability is to enforce. The term community policing is redundant. And you go back to the Constitution, you're going to see a massive change. But you know what? There's no money in that. There's no money. The systemic racism, I agree, is there, but it's there on the higher level. It's there in the courts. It's there in the politicians. Unfortunately, and I've said this publicly and they hate it, some cops are just too stupid to realize that they're pawns. If they stood up and said, it's not my job, this is not the oath I swore to, it would be a completely different story.
Yeah, well, Dominick, we clearly have massive disagreements, but on the other hand, I find our agreements to be fascinating and ironic. Yes, there is systemic racism. Yes, by the way, Black Lives Matter definitely challenges judges, prosecutors, politicians. In fact, they were not popular in the Democratic Party before George Floyd because of how aggressively they challenged Democratic politicians, let alone Republican politicians. But when you say, hey, we should not imprison people for profit, every progressive agrees with that. So the for-profit prisons are insane. It makes taking away our freedoms a profit center, and that is not how things should operate in a free country. So the bottom line is, with the enormous disagreements we have, it was still a fascinating conversation, and I'm glad that we at least talked it through. And you know how I think, and now I know how you think. So, Dominick, Izzo, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.